In this episode of Lift Arc Studios, we cut an inch of steel with a 45 amp Hypertherm plasma cutter. Cheers. Oh, and Frank's here from Arc3.
Hello.
So perfect. Hi everyone.
Hello.
I'm Tay.
I'm Frank.
And
From Arc3 Gases.
That's right, Frank from Arc3, and we're here at our shop, Lift Arc, again. And okay, so you know we do a lot of plasma cutting on this channel. Most of it is on the Shop Saber, but we use our Hypertherm 105. We put the hand torch on it all the time, and we'll cut all kinds of stuff. We did that giant helical sculpture that was hand cut with the plasma cutter, and it's a problem solver. But that's the 105. That's a big boy. What we have to display today is the 45.
Yes.
So what have you brought to our shop, and what can we? How can we hurt it?
So the the 45 XP, the predecessor to this, didn't have that sync technology where you use the
these cartridge things.
Consumables. It had the consumable stack where you had like 5 different pieces.
Yeah, you had the swirl ring, electrode, the nozzle, and the shield.
Yep.
Which you get used to if that's what you use all the time.
Yeah,
but.
and I guess Hypertherm didn't want to mess with the XP because it was their most popular machine.
I see. Yeah.
And so they finally developed it to run the sync cartridges.
So sync's been out for a while, but they just got it on the little guy, the 45.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess just for information, you can get an adapter to go on any old Hypertherm plasma that has this standard consumable stack that'll take the cartridges.
The adapter goes on the end of the torch?
On the end of the torch. So it extends your torch by an inch and a half or so.
Right.
But it allows you to use the cartridges.
And it won't talk back to the machine.
But you don't get the talking back and forth.
Yeah.
You can still read it with the little handheld reader to see what the life is. But anyway, so the 45 sync is everything the XP was. It's just got the sync technology.
Right. Now here's my base knowledge on these. I remember when I spec'd out that plasma cutter over there, it was when they had just rolled out the sync tips.
Yep.
So we upgraded from our 85 non-sync on the old table to the 105 sync.
Yep.
And I remember when like any new technology, it was a little contentious. The guys that were super familiar with the old school, they were like, they're $50 a cartridge, 55, and they're like, people don't like change.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I'll tell you this, the first first job I had on the plasma table with the 105 sync was I cut a fixture table like that one for a buddy of mine out of a sheet of three sheets of 3/8. So I was piercing over 1,800 holes in a sheet of 3/8 steel. And I used a 105 amp tip, and one tip did every hole.
Wow.
The tip melted down at the very last cut when it was cutting the border out. It finally failed and shot copper dust out of it. But I was like,
nice.
Because the piercing is the most violent
it's hard on them.
part for the tip. And one tip pierced 1,800 plus holes, so I was like,
wow.
After that I was sold.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is clearly not a downgrade.
Well, and that's what, when Hypertherm developed this, the reason why was not to get, the primary reason was not to get more cuts or longer life. Their number one issue to their tech support phone number is consumable issues.
Right.
Like they were in the wrong order, they weren't tight enough, they were overusing them.
People blame the machine. And
Yeah,
it's like,
so they developed this to take all of the variables out.
Yeah.
The tolerances stay the same. It gets changed when it's time to.
Yeah, because some people probably leave the swirl ring in too long, or leave the electrode in too long.
And the swirl ring will get micro cracks that you can't see.
Right.
And it lets your air go. So this fixed all those problems, and the reciprocal benefit was longer life, more cuts, quality cuts through the life of the cartridge.
Yeah.
Because as your consumables in the traditional stack would wear, you'd start getting poorer quality cuts, slower cuts, or wider curves. So,
or it goes one way or the other.
Yep.
Yeah.
So at $57 a pop, it's like, well, I don't normally change all the parts.
Yeah.
But you
should have been.
You get better cuts, and in a lot of cases you should have been.
Yeah.
When all the heat-resistant plastic is gone and and it's like all copper and you're still using it,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So now it takes all the guesswork out, and then you've got the benefits of being able to look back at what you've done and
Yeah.
say, you know, second shift is just playing with it and not actually producing anything.
Right.
Or whatever. So it's great.
Well,
Very successful.
I want to try this thing out because you've mentioned that the 45 sink has some pretty high ceilings.
Yes. Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say is the sink part, the fact that the machine is now talking to the tip. In a traditional setting, you might wonder like, well, why? Because both are within hand's reach. But for my plasma table setup, the machine is over on the wall. It's far away from me.
Right.
So it's really cool and the machine torch has this too. You can like turn it off,
Right.
change the tip while everything's powered on.
Yes.
Put the new tip on that might have a different amp rating, and then turn this back on, and the machine goes, oh, I know what's on there.
Yep.
And it sets the new ceiling of amperage for the new tip,
Right.
which is super helpful because in the old system, if you modify any of the consumable stack while it's on, it throws an error code,
Yep.
and you have to go over there and power cycle it to
Yes.
like refresh
Yep.
it. And so now you don't have to do that, which is just
And
another like time-saving thing.
And it's a safety feature too, because most people don't read the owner's manual
Yeah.
and don't follow what it's supposed to do. But
really?
technically, you shouldn't be messing with the end of the torch when it's live electrically, because you got thousands of volts running through there to make that plasma arc.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so this gives you a way to isolate all the electrical output
Right,
so that you can do that safely
right.
from the torch and not having to go back to the machine.
You can
to do
leave
it.
this wherever you've neatly arranged it and
Exactly.
do all your work with here, even changing
Yep.
the amperage. But
And-
here, I'm a little OCD. Let me untangle this.
Yes. Speaking of owner's manuals,
Yes.
it,
So this is the unit itself. Let's
Yep.
start here. So it's about 20
Yep.
inches by 4.
lightweight and portable.
Pretty light.
Yep.
Clearly meant to be carried around.
Yeah, 220 volt.
Is it multi-voltage?
No.
Okay.
If you want a 110 volt capability, you drop down to the 30 XP.
Got it.
Or the
Okay.
30 Air, which is it's designed for sheet metal work.
Yeah.
Although it's got a lot of power.
That's a
and
different
output.
class of machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No cartridges. It's standard consumable stack.
Right.
So, 220 single phase input, lightweight portable, rated 5/8 thick at 20 inches a minute.
But they
at-
rated it.
Yeah.
I mean, they bothered to say this will cut
Exactly,
5/8.
and it will. But also at 5 inches a minute, so slow it way down up to 1.125 inches, and it'll do it.
That's pretty wild.
Yes.
So I have a buddy of mine shopping for one right now, and before you said that, I was like, he mentioned that he'd like to cut 1/2 inch, maybe
Yeah.
5/8, sometimes 3/4. I'm like, well, might have to go 85 or something, but maybe not.
Yeah, if he's doing lots of 1/2 inch and his budget is more in range with this in the
Definitely,
2,900 range,
Yeah.
then I've got confidence selling a machine like this for
Yeah.
a guy doing 1/2 inch
Every
and
now and again.
an occasional
Yeah.
up to 1 inch.
Well, so we plugged it in, we've run compressed air to it. That's obviously the other thing a plasma cutter needs to run.
Right.
But you can get tanks, can you run nitrogen? Some people run
There's,
nitrogen.
yeah, like some of particularly the bigger systems will use nitrogen or even oxygen.
Yeah.
On handheld systems, it's just compressed air.
Yeah.
But you can get bottled compressed air also that has nitrogen and
You
oxygen
need to
in
go
it.
mobile,
Yep.
or just get a compressor, whatever. So-
Good, clean, dry air. It's not a large volume of air.
Yeah.
So a small compressor will give it enough.
Yeah, and if you absolutely need to, you can cut for a minute, let the compressor.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're good on the back side. What do we do now on the front side?
So we got all the torches are quick connect.
Right?
So they positive lock in there, but then there's no, like, if you damaged your torch, you don't have to take the machine apart to get it out
Right.
to replace it. And the same,
The cord I got for my 105, will that plug in here?
I think it will.
Cool.
Yeah, previously the old style consumable torches still had the quick connect, but it was a bigger one.
Yeah.
So that you couldn't interchange it with the new sink.
Got it.
But it should be the same.
We'll try that later.
Yeah. And of course that's just a,
Just a dense connector
yeah,
ground.
the small dins.
Cool. All right, so
You got an on-off switch.
ON-OFF.
Looks like we got power.
There's literally 2 buttons. There's the switch and a knob.
Yep, and it's showing a consumable error, probably because I have the torch switched off.
Yep, so if I switch this back on.
Yep, so it'll flash an error code and won't go ready to cut until you pull the trigger. You'll get a 5 puffs of air.
That sounded cool.
That tells you now it's ready to cut.
Got it. And is that just like some kind of clearing out the lines?
Yeah,
kind of thing?
and it's a warning, you know, you're getting ready to go live, but you're not live yet.
Right.
So it's off, you turn it on.
Cool, and it doesn't dry fire the arc.
Right, it's just air blowing through.
Cool.
Saying, now we're ready to cut.
And so if I take what I learned from the other machines and apply it to this, you have cut and then gouge, right?
Yeah.
You can move
So
over.
there's an auto mode, so you can, I don't really know how to get out of that actually.
I guess you hold it. So auto just means it's taking what input from the consumable, like that's a cut consumable,
right.
So it's on cut.
Yeah,
so you brought a gouge and a flush cut consumable,
yeah.
So theoretically if we switch it.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. All right, torch off.
Torch off.
Now give it a, so now that's a cutting consumable, so it's still showing in the cut mode.
So, but then we do gouge.
Gouge, and then the other light should illuminate.
Oh. It's always easier when one person does it. There it goes. So
now we're in gouge
to gouge.
mode.
Okay, cool. So maybe that's a good segue to the different. Let's cut something first. The people have been waiting a little while. Let's do some cutting. And then we'll go into these other.
And they're color coded. Yellow is drag cutting. Gray is mechanized cutting, which you may know from your table. Green is gouging, and then black are specialty consumables.
Got it.
Consumables like flush cutting. They've got an extended cutting that's a long, skinny, like you can reach down in a hole.
Right.
Like for tubing, you can cut a hole and then go down inside the hole and cut the other side.
Cut the other side, yeah. Cool.
So, but we're doing cutting. It's a 45 amp drag cut.
Drag meaning you can just let it
stick
drag.
It right on there.
Yeah.
No issue. Everything's good to go.
All right. So we start thin and go thick. I mean, just the baseline.
Yeah. And your the rating 20 inches a minute on 5/8. So as you go down, you can increase your travel speed.
Right. So this looks like 16 gauge or something.
Yep. So you
should
can
cut
just
that real fast.
Fly through it.
Show us how it's done.
All right. Let me put on some gloves.
Always wear PPE.
That's right.
Even though I may not always wear PPE. Do what I say, not what I do.
And we're going to go 90 degrees.
All right.
We'll start off the edge of the plate.
Cool.
Quick and easy.
I'm going to cut it in. I made you something.
Oh, yay.
I made an F for Frank.
F for Frank.
Okay, so that's not, that's what it should do that easy all day, no problem.
Yep.
So let's step up in thickness.
All right, so this is...
that's a big step up.
That's like...
That's 5/8, right?
That's probably half or 3/8.
Yeah, that's half.
Half
okay.
inch.
So half-inch plate with a 45 amp machine.
Yep.
So you go to approach something like this, is the technique different?
Everything is exactly the same, you're just going to go slower.
Okay.
And to determine your accurate travel speed, if you can watch the plasma stream as it exits the plate, you want a slight bend on it.
Right.
Away from the direction you're traveling.
Right.
If it really bends up, you're going too fast. If it's coming straight down, you need to speed up a little bit. You want like a 15-degree angle or so as you're going.
That's a good tip. Okay.
So let's...
get it? Good tip. Here, you want to clamp on that?
Yeah, just in case I
Walker,
get heavy-handed
the right basket
on there.
on top of there, just grab one of those clamps. Yeah. Okay. Half inch plate. Whoa, man. I did not know you could do that with a 45.
Yeah, lots of power. And that's the rated cut.
Yeah.
Or just under the rated cut.
It says it's rated for 5/8.
And a sever cut, which is slower travel speed and a little bit less quality. You'll have a little bit more dross on the bottom, and
Like sever meaning I just got to split this. It's
Yep.
not going to be nice, but I got to cut
it'll
it.
cut up to 1.1 inches thick. So
You just gotta gnaw through it.
it'll be smoother than you think.
So I actually found some bar here. That's
3/4.
it's between 3/4 and 5/8. Should we try it?
Let's do it, and we'll work our way up.
All right.
So you cut that one.
Okay.
Just go watch your plasma stream on the back side.
Right.
That you got a little bit of a tail.
All right. So call it 3/4 flat bar with a 45 sink. Engage.
Yeah.
Standing on the wrong side. Much like this one. I think I went a little too fast at the beginning and the dross reconnected.
Yep.
If you got to do it, you can do it pretty easy.
Yeah.
So that's its rated maximum, theoretically. It's a little more than the rated maximum.
Yeah, for the regular 20 inches a minute travel speed. So
That's really impressive.
and all you're doing as you go thicker is just reducing travel
Yeah,
speed.
because you got to get the plasma arc time to burn through.
So you're probably 15 inches a minute there. And
So there are some, because it's still metal, there are some interesting through lines between oxy fuel cutting and this. Just in the observable way that the metal melts away, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see it, you got to give it time to burrow all the way through the thick metal.
Right,
And once you've done it, you don't want to, like as soon as it makes the cut all the way through, you need to start moving.
Right.
Like you don't want to linger because the metal will go away and the arc will cut off.
Yeah,
and you need
yeah,
to
yeah.
keep moving.
Right, because the air is blowing away the molten metal.
Right.
So if you just stay in one spot, it's melting all around it, and it's just like you were a little slow
rejoined,
or
yeah.
a little fast at first. It didn't have time to blow it all through, so
Right.
it kind of joined back together.
That's why plasma's so rad. There's no preheating.
Right.
You don't have to lug around a cart with 2 giant tanks of gas.
Right.
Way less explosive.
Exactly. And then on sheet metal, this is still a little bit warm.
Yeah.
But if you'd cut this with an oxy fuel torch,
It'd be
you
gone.
still wouldn't be able to pick it up.
Right.
And it would be warped because it takes a lot more heat
Yeah.
and a lot slower time. This is going to be hot.
We got to make you a necklace out of that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Look like Flavor Flav.
F.
F for Frank. I mean, this is 1.25 inches.
Let's
do you
do
want
it.
to give it worst case scenario?
Let's work our way up to that.
Yeah.
So the next step would be two
Oh yeah.
pieces of 1/2 inch stacked,
Just stack them.
and then we got 1 inch.
You guys follow that? 1/2 inch plus 1/2 inch equals inch.
That's right.
Stay in school, kids. All right, man.
All right.
1 inch. Well above the rated thickness, but theoretically possible.
Yeah.
Make it through. Yeah, dude. Look at that. So you can see it sort of leaves a story. Like you can see
Yep.
how that arc.
Yeah, it's less quality for sure, and you saw how much slower.
Yeah.
You gotta watch it, and you wait for it to get all the way through, and then you start moving.
Yeah, like it tells you how fast you can go.
Yeah.
If you read
Yep.
read the arc.
And that's really hot.
Yeah.
You can see there's a lot more slag on the bottom
A lot
of it,
dross
dross.
there. Yeah.
But then on this piece, this was overhanging. That was the stacked part. And then when I got to just 1/2 inch, it just sped
Zero
up and
dross.
right through it.
Yeah.
So,
And you can hear the fan going now, but she's humming and happy over there.
yep.
That's really impressive.
1 inch. It's 1.25 inches. We can try.
Yeah, we don't listen. We're just getting greedy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's extremely impressive.
But the way they rate it, it will do it. There
yeah,
were
5/8 was really comfortable.
so many years where companies would rate a plasma cutter to do, and if everything was perfect and it was hard to do what it said it would do.
Right.
But Hypertherm rates them.
Pretty
You can do that.
realistically. Yeah. Yeah, 1/2 inch was pretty effortless.
Yep.
And almost zero dross.
Yep. And Hypertherm, by the way, is the only U.S. manufactured plasma cutter on the market.
Wow.
Nobody else makes them in the U.S. Nobody else has 100% U.S. based customer service, technical support. manufacturing.
That feels
Now
good.
the components, who knows where they all come from, but
Right.
it's all.
What do they say now? Made in America from global materials?
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. So the main competitor, Thermodynamics, back in the day was U.S. based,
Yeah.
but then they were bought and sold a few times, and they're Chinese, South America, Mexico
Yeah.
components, and so Hypertherm is the leader in terms of domestic production.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and support.
Helps a lot, man.
I've been to their facility in New Hampshire.
Oh, cool.
So like you can go there.
Yeah.
And you can see what they go through in their manufacturing process, which is impressive.
That's cool.
to see.
I bet it is. So cutting, everyone knows it can cut straight through.
Yep.
But these other tips is a new frontier for me, the gouging and the flush cut. So I'd love to check some of that out.
Yes. All right.
And it's not too loud either. Some machines, when the fan kicks on, it's loud as heck.
Yeah, you can. And I guess one thing to note before we leave cutting, you've got this on your hand torch for your 105 too. You've got volt or amperage adjustment right on the torch. Mm-hmm. So we're cutting with a 45 amp consumable. It's set at 45 amps. We can adjust that at the machine if we want, lower, or if we don't want to walk all the way back to the machine.
And it should have you can see it dancing up and down.
Yeah, it's
so
hard
the
to
top of the scale is going to be your 45.
Each one is 5 amps.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and
it
it's
steps
changing
down.
on there
So
as
40, 35, 30, 25, it
Yeah.
goes all the way down. So what's
So-
the floor? What's it at now?
20.
So all the way bottom is
Yeah.
20.
So if you're cutting,
Which is better for this.
if you wanted to cut a lot of thin stuff,
Yeah.
and you wanted to slow it down to where you get a better quality cut,
You'll have a smaller kerf with a smaller
turn
arc
your
and-
amps down.
Yeah.
And you can
And
do
you
it
can
right
put
from the
you can get a
torch.
fine cut on here too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Your there's a fine cut that's similar to your mechanized that has the tip exposed,
Yeah.
to where you have to manually hold a standoff.
Yeah.
But
But that's really good
it
for
gets
precise
you
stuff.
smaller kerf. Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
good precise. So
No, and when you have a 50-foot lead and you're across your shop, this remote button is really
yes.
nice.
Yeah.
You just got to memorize what they are.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. There's no readout on here, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
So I've installed the gouging consumable,
Okay.
and gouging is going to be,
Yeah, what's the practical application of gouging?
let's say I welded that. That's not the way I wanted it to go. Mm-hmm. And I want to take it back apart without destroying my pieces.
Yeah.
So I want to gouge out just the weld.
So what changes about the arc to not make it go all the way through?
I think your air actually goes down. The
Okay,
air
so
pressure.
it's not pushing it
Yeah.
like a needle.
And then the other difference is going to be the way you hold your torch.
Okay.
You're going to come in
Real shallow.
like a 45-degree angle, and you're just going to move across, and it's
Okay.
going to blow all the material out instead of
So that's
going all the way through.
the other
you're
thing
just blowing it
that
out.
you
all the
got to
way.
remember.
Yep.
In this case, we would melt that camera right there.
Yep.
So where do we want to shoot it? Maybe that way?
Yeah.
Cool with that? Yeah, we'll melt that one instead. We'll shoot sort of that way.
Just melt Will.
Will, could you grab that orange air line and sort of pull it back out of the way? I don't want to melt a hole in it.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull it out of the way.
There's a process called carbon arc gouging.
Yes.
Where
Which
you,
still kind of messes with my head. Like
Yeah.
it looks like a stick electrode,
Yep.
but air's being fed through it.
It's a big chunk of carbon, and air blows from the torch head,
Yeah.
and it just basically dead shorts a big stick machine.
Yeah.
And the air blows the molten metal out, and you can do a lot of metal removal.
Yeah, it's wild.
But you got to wear full leather, and because there's sparks and fire going everywhere.
Yeah. I follow a guy on YouTube that does like heavy equipment repair.
Yeah.
And when he's cutting the teeth off of buckets and stuff,
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
he uses.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, he's got a full like forced air mask and all
and
sorts of stuff.
it's a lot of setup.
Yeah.
So gouging with plasma, like a larger amperage plasma, you could get some pretty good gouges without all the setup.
Yeah.
You're still using shade 5 glasses, you're using just gloves and a jacket
Yeah.
or whatever. It's not a lot of blowback.
Right.
and you can do it fast.
So you approach a fillet weld like this, you want to gouge.
Yep. So we're just going to, I've already changed the consumable.
Yeah.
Turn the torch back on. We get 5 puffs of air that says we're ready to go.
Cool.
And you just
Here, I'll do it.
start in here. I'm going to establish the arc and then kind of move it in until it starts removing metal. And then I'll move in and I'll watch the weld bead that I'm gouging and slow down or speed up or change angle
To kind of get it all out of
to
there.
however I want it to look when I'm done.
Right, okay.
So here we go.
It's almost like pressure washing. You're just holding it there, waiting for the dirt to go away.
Yep. And there's a process with gouging consumables or even with the cutting consumables called washing.
Yeah.
Where we'll go back, this stuff here, you can probably chip it off.
Yeah.
But any surface material, you can just lightly wash over it and kind of clean it down to the surface.
You can kind of be away from it a little while.
Yep.
You don't have to be right up on it.
And that's where the amperage control on the torch comes in. If you want to wash something,
Yeah.
you can reduce the amps.
So it's way less effective, so you
Yep.
not as,
If you're just cleaning the surface.
It's kind of funny. It's like a plasma garden hose.
It looks terrible. So I could keep going until I get down to that root and then just
Break it off,
break it right off.
grind it if you need to, and then
Yep.
you're back.
Just
Now you
start
don't have
over.
to cut through an entire fillet weld.
Yep.
Cool.
Would you like to gouge?
Yeah, I bet you I've got, you want to save that for flush cut?
Yeah, we'll do that
I
for
bet you I've got some abandoned items. I try to throw away all the things I mess up so I don't have to look at them. Well, I could weld something together. Well, here's a good example. I don't know what this is. Someone welded this together, and I don't use this as a jig, right? I want to take this apart
Oh yeah.
and reclaim this 1/2-inch plate. So it looks like just a few fillet welds here and there. So there's an actual use case.
Yes.
So
I think I would start with a little lower amperage.
yeah, it looks
Just to protect your plate that you want to save.
right. I'll go.
And see how deep it's cutting.
All right, I'll go halfway down and see. That's very neat. It's like the opposite of welding. I know that
Yeah.
sounds really obvious, but
Yep, you're unwelding.
yeah, unwelding. Really cool. Honestly, more than the eye protection, the sound that the air makes is pretty loud. You might want to consider wearing
some earplugs,
Yeah.
maybe. Are there welds on the backside?
Yeah. There we go.
More welds.
More welds. Don't they say always swing your sledgehammer toward you?
I think that's right.
There we go.
So now, anything that you've got left, you gouged a little bit, but you could just wash.
Yeah,
Wash
turn
it
it down
off.
and just sort
Yep.
of, literally like spraying off your patio, just
Yep.
sort of,
Yep.
so cool. Let's see. Yeah, so I mean, once you get used to it and you know where the end of the arc is, you get a lot better at protecting whatever you're
Yep.
trying to save. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and now you're not blowing through abrasives,
Yes.
working with a die grinder
Yeah,
for
yep,
hours
yep.
and hours.
Yep.
Die grinders shoot little metal splinters at you. Abrasives
Yeah.
create a bunch of dust that you're
Right.
breathing in. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Cool.
All
Well,
right.
that was a first for me. I've never gouged.
Cool. Now you can do it.
Demystified.
And you don't need a 300 amp diesel driven
No.
welder and leather pants and jacket and all the
I
equipment.
can only imagine
you
what
can do it with your plasma.
the 105 with the gouge
Yeah.
tip could accomplish.
You could
Probably
get a
some
lot
pretty
thicker
wild
material.
stuff.
Yeah, big gouge. Because the gouge consumables are rated the same. This is a 45 to 85 amp. So you could put this on your 105 and get
Run it at 85.
85 amps.
Well, that's
all we're
convenient.
getting is 45. Well, and you even had it turned down at that.
So this thing will probably last a while on the 45.
Yeah, because it's only running a little over half power.
Right.
So.
Well, that's pretty easy to understand.
So next.
Yeah, now some really new fancy stuff.
So we're going to power the torch off, take that one off, and this is flush cut.
Okay.
And it's same, it's rated 65 amps.
Okay.
Of course, we'll only get 45 out of it.
Yeah.
On this torch.
Does that spin?
Yes. So you've got a flat.
Yeah.
And we're going to ride that flat on this piece of material.
That sits on your base metal.
And the arc is going to come parallel to the base plate.
Cool.
And it's going to leave behind 1/8 of an inch of material.
That's all you have to grind off.
Yep.
Or you could go back to
and
gouge.
we're going to wash it off with the flush cut consumable. Cool. So when we get done, we'll have 2 usable pieces that we can weld back up, whatever. And this is useful for lifting eyes. You weld a lifting eye onto a big tank or a piece of equipment, and then you got to cut it off when you're done.
Right.
Traditionally, you're at an angle to cut it off, and so you're getting into your base material.
Yeah.
Or you're cutting really high, and then you've got all this material to grind off. So
Been there a lot.
This will give you
So
a flush cut.
Do you set the angle of this and then lock it down?
Right.
Is that how? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
so when it's loose, this spins around, and that's where it's set up. If you want to pull back towards you or go the other way, you need to set it accordingly. So we want it kind of like that.
Well, it rotates, right?
Yeah.
I see.
Kind of perpendicular to the handle.
That's easy. You just hold it.
Yeah.
Cool. Flush cut.
So we're going to turn the torch back on.
Yep. Same
We get
deal.
5 puffs that let us know
cool.
that it's ready to go.
I want to see what you're seeing.
All right, so we're going to get that. And it's good to kind of do a little practice run. Make sure you don't have any bits of slag that are going to hold you up because you want it nice and smooth. And you can see our total thickness we're going to go through is going to be close to 1/2 inch because we're going to be halfway into that weld bead on both sides. Hang on, I wasn't flat on there. So there's what we've got left.
So that was a pretty thick one for it.
Yeah, it was slow travel speed because I wasn't right on the metal.
Right.
Like with cutting. And now once we've done that, I'm going to wash. So I'm going to turn the nozzle a little bit.
Yeah.
And you wash it the same way as with the gouging torch.
So where's it going, that way?
It's going to go this way, like into those plates.
All right. He's got to get.
Yeah, I'm going to turn my amps down. And you know, now that
it's easy to see it go away slowly, yeah.
Yeah, I could probably run back across there and cut the top of that off and have less to wash. But I just didn't want to get into the base material. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it back up.
All right. Looks like it's just not close enough for the arc to
and
stick.
that's when you're washing, you have to be close enough for the arc to transfer.
Right.
But so you lose your arc a lot if you're not right up on the plate.
Yeah. Should I try?
Yes.
I am the god of lava. How you holding up, buddy? You doing okay?
Here's in the thick of it.
Yeah. Hey, DJI, send us some more cameras, please.
Send us the new one of these, so we'll really put it through.
Yeah. Is the new DJI Action 5 flame resistant?
No, maybe not.
So this is, of the three, the definite niche like use case.
Yeah,
nozzle. Like,
yeah,
that's a real special application.
And because of that, you're 57 a piece on the cartridges. This one's 105.
Yeah,
So it's a more expensive cartridge, but if you're doing a lot of flush cutting,
yeah.
it pays for itself because you're saving base material.
Well, yeah.
If
and
you can keep out of it from gouging it.
a box of cutoff wheels, good ones,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
$60 anyway.
And the time
you know?
required to run a bunch of cutoff wheels.
Yeah,
too.
and they're not flush because you have the arbor of the grinder. You're still
Yeah.
cutting at an angle.
Yeah.
Well, this little thing is way more powerful than I thought the
Yeah.
45s were at
Yep.
this point.
Yeah, it's amazing that this is just the second step up in their range.
Mm-hmm.
You got the 30 amp machines, one that has built-in air, and then one that you add external air that are rated roughly the same.
Right.
And then this is kind of the first step in the big machines,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not entry level by any means.
That would be the backbone of most medium-sized fab shops for sure.
Right.
And you could get into, if you want to get into CNC plasma,
Right.
these things can be triggered.
Yeah,
right?
you can buy it with the CPC port on the back, the
Yeah.
circular plastic connector
Right.
that'll attach to most cutting tables, Shop
Right.
Saver, whoever. And you can use this with a mechanized torch on a table.
Right. And then do what we do, which is it runs the table, but then when you need a hand torch, just get the 50-foot lead,
Right.
run it to it, jump your ground to whatever table you're working
Yeah.
on, and go to town.
Quick connect,
Yeah.
take one out, put one in.
It's great. All right, general retail price of one of these things?
28 and change. So
Okay.
I think it's 28.25.
All right. But you mentioned earlier if you have an old plasma.
If you
cutter-
have an old plasma of any kind, any condition, you can get trade-in value by trading that in.
Nice.
And it won't be the value of that plasma
Yeah.
unless it's broken and is just scrap metal.
Right.
Then you can get a few $100s off of a 45 by trading it in.
Yeah. So obviously,
Where should they go to buy
yeah, where do they go to buy it?
Arc3 Gases. We keep these in stock.
Yeah. Every time I go in there for stuff, there's always
Yeah.
one of those on the shelf.
Any Arc3 store in our system should have one of these in stock.
Yeah. If I didn't have my 105, I would have
Yeah.
bought one of those by now.
Right.
For sure. That's an amazing.
Yeah.
And now that they got the sink tips, which again, I was a little hesitant on at the beginning, but as soon as I saw how resilient they were
Yeah.
and how easy it was, like our designer Spike, who came from the architecture world, he's been handy his whole life, but he's not a fabricator per se.
Yeah.
So like the learning curve for the tip change out. Now it took maybe a span of 2 months, and now he's running that whole machine by himself. We've
Right.
got a rack that we 3D printed that keeps all of our sink tips.
Yep.
And we organize them by how worn they are,
Yeah.
and it's easy to use or easy to read.
Right, and there's no figuring out which way does
Hold on.
this, which way does this go in, and how tight does it have to be?
I just remembered something I have.
Yeah,
That's the old stuff you used to have. You used to have the electrode, the nozzle, the swirl ring, and
Yeah.
the shield. Those 4 things.
yep. And then you got the shield body that holds
Yeah.
it all together.
Right.
When I remember, sometimes you'd be like, I don't know if the electrode is bad or the tip or the shield.
Well, that was more when I didn't have dry air yet.
Yeah.
I was blaming the equipment a lot for wet air, and
Yeah.
now I have a refrigerated air dryer, which
Right.
if you have a shop, they're not that expensive. $700,000, get a nice refrigerated air dryer. It changed everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Does Arc3 sell those?
We sure do. And then like electrode, that one's still got a little bit of life left in it.
Most of these do.
That one's got some life. So do you pair that with a brand new tip?
I played that game a lot.
Yeah,
I would
and
go
you're
like, well,
mixing and matching.
and then I'd go, all right, well, this isn't a very important cut or doesn't need to be very nice, so I'll use some worn out
Yeah.
consumables.
So I'll stop what I'm doing, change out my consumables with
Yeah.
stuff that's half good.
Yeah. And then if someone comes in to use the machine, you have to now explain to them the strange salad
Yeah.
of parts you've put
Right.
together in your tip.
What does the electrode look like when it's
Yeah.
no good anymore?
Yeah.
And what does the tip look like?
I'll be honest, I still don't know.
Yeah.
After years of doing this, I have no clue. So I am now more thoroughly impressed with a 45 amp machine. I think in the library of knowledge that I'd assembled in my head with no real research whatsoever, it's easy to write off the 45 amp machine.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, they have the 65, the 85, the 105.
Yeah,
If you
let's
cut X-
go bigger, but
Yeah, which for a plasma table I did because you don't know what you're going to throw on there, but the portability, the size, and clearly the capability of this 45 for under $3,000. To me,
Yep.
that seems like the backbone of most fab shops. Like, should definitely have one of those.
yep. US made, supported locally at Arc3 Gases, 3-year warranty in our service department
Yeah.
in Roanoke.
Cut, gouge, flush cut, and you just look cool doing it. The
Yeah.
Hypertherm 45 sink, it'll make you cooler. Go buy one if you're in the market for one. Hypertherm has literally never left us stranded once. We love them here, and it's great that you guys support them. So arc3gases.com, create an account. You can see prices in real time, or go to one of your several mini stores,
60, I
60
think.
stores.
Yeah.
Walk in and talk to someone. And free demo and
That's
education, right?
Yeah, we'll train you, we'll set it up, demo it, let you use it, make sure it's what you want.
You might even meet Frank.
You might even meet
If you're in the
Frank.
Roanoke area, give me a call.
We're gonna make Frank famous. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to. You're gonna have to start being swarmed by old guys. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow Arc3 Gases on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're not subscribed to us yet, definitely get subscribed. And join our Patreon, where we dump all sorts of uncut, behind-the-scenes tips and tricks, things like that, to further your quasi-metalworking education from a college dropout and an actual professional. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.